The days of the terrorist coalition that is operating in the north of Mali, which is the FLA and the JNIM, with impunity in the Kidal region, are coming to a decisive end. To be honest with you, with the latest escalation coming from the Malian security forces, I think the gloves are finally off. Personally, when you look at the way Mali be handling the situation, they are handling it professionally. But when you look at a series of long-range sanction that they have sanctioned the JNIM capability, I'm talking about personnel capability, financial logistical capability, military capability, you know, supply routes capability, you definitely know that the gloves are finally off. So with regards to what we just received tonight, the Malian Air Force have just struck positions of the JNIM and FLA coalition in the Kidal region at approximately 9:41 p.m. local time. According to information from sources on the ground, two Sukhoi fighter jets of the Malian Armed Forces were reportedly deployed to carry out these precision strikes on the Kidal region. Now, what makes this significant, ladies and gentlemen, is that this is not an isolated operation. We are also receiving reports. We've posted some of these reports on our Telegram channel of another rapid Malian airstrike. And this one, they targeted the FLA position in Tinzawantin. And at the time when the video of the airstrike in Tinzawantin came out, there was another report that there was another Malian Russian area bombardment going on in Escalates. And here is where it gets more interesting. Credible reports indicate that the Malian army struck a fuel depot and an arms and ammunition depot that have just, been loaded. And the munition that are brought into this depot is just coming directly from Libya. Now, the funny aspect of the whole thing is, from evidence that we've seen, it seems as though the Malian authorities knew every step of the way what the terrorist coalition was planning. You see, when you strike a fuel depot and an ammunition storage facility that just arrived from Libya, you are not conducting a random bombardment. You are not executing any operation. You are actually executing an intelligence-led operation, an intelligence-driven decapitation assault of the enemy logistical backbone. According to the information that we received, that is currently available to us, the supply line from Libya has been active for some time now. They have been fueling the war of the JNIM and FLA against Mali. Now, they have been bringing in munition through the porous border that is of Libya to Niger, and from Niger they go into Mali. According to information, this territory belonged to Marshal Haftar Khalifa of Libya. Now, they have been taking advantage of this Libyan porous border. According to information, the Libyan forces have also launched a cleanup operation in their northern region. But according to information, the FLA, who are the Bedouin Arabs, are taking advantage of families that they have across the southern territory of Libya. So they disappear into the civilians of the southern territory of Libya. And according to information, it is in the homes of these civilians in southern Libya that some of these capabilities that come in are being stored based on the intelligence that we have received. And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, that pipeline have been destroyed. And when you cut off the fuel and the ammunition, ladies and gentlemen, you did not just kill the fighters on the ground from the secondary to tertiary explosion, right? You have dismantled their capacity to carry out operation. Now, this is a strategic warfare. And by a long shot, a lot of people are not really telling you what this war is about or the magnitude of effort that is being put in place by the Malian Armed Forces. Now, there are some questions that have been coming out from a lot of people in the community. On Telegram, they've been personally sending me messages. Thank you so much, Cryptography Talk. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate those who are around. So, one of the questions that they are asking is, How effective have the Malian intelligence been, given that sometimes their operation is so precise and sometimes they run into ambush and all of that? How effective has the Malian intelligence been, right? Intelligence can be complete. Intelligence sometimes can be incomplete. Sometimes you have multiple chains of human intelligence. And if you don't get to the last individual across the intelligence chain, you might not be able to complete the mission. There are some people that they are aware that their communication security can be compromised. So they use couriers. That you are able to intercept a single courier does not mean that you have a complete intelligence of what the mission profile is. The people that send a courier, I'm talking about the official, because the courier is an asset. Catching both the courier and one of the official does not mean you have been able to completely intercept an intelligence. So intelligence varies. Sometimes it's long, sometimes it's short. That is why there is difference in timing of military intervention. There are some military intervention that just within minutes of intercepting intelligence, the Air Force move in because it's a localized intelligence. Like the network is not so deep, it's not so long. But when you have intelligence where you have to capture A, then you go to B, then you go to C, then you go to D, you need time. So sometimes you cannot say that the Malian intelligence have not been effective just because sometimes the military run into ambush and sometimes the military is successful. That is not how to define intelligence. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me give you a very, very good answer, right? What people are missing, right, both within the continent and internationally, is the effectiveness of the Malian intelligence. In recent months, they have been very, very effective. And I use this word carefully. The effectiveness of the Malian intelligence has been unprecedented. And I say that unapologetically. When you look at the consequence of the operation we have witnessed since the beginning of the year 2026, there is a clear, unmistakable pattern. All right, the Malian security apparatus, working alongside the strategic Russian African Corps, they are no longer reactional in their approach to combating terrorism. They are anticipating the attack, they are intercepting them before they can materialize, they are decapitating. And these are intelligence-led military operations. Now, what we are now beginning to see, that is why I said, the competence of the Malian intelligence in recent months have been unprecedented. And I said, I'm using that language, I'm using it carefully. Because when you strike without the JNIM doing something, when you strike with a long-range Geran prototype, right, you are not reactional. You are being proactive. That is what you call a preemptive strike. So what we are beginning to see, I just looked into the situation this week. For the past week that I've been studying the situation in northern Mali, this is what we call a preemptive assault. When you launch a preemptive assault, you're trying to destroy the threats before the enemies can even organize to carry out any type of operation. Now, consider the evidence in late July. The Malian Armed Forces launched strikes against armed vehicles and JNIM combat groups as part of the operation they call Operation Dugo Koloko, right? A lot of people that study the Malian security situation, they are aware of this operation that they call Operation Dugo Koloko outside the village of Doro. Now, the Malian army neutralized an entire combat group and they destroyed 2 vehicles loaded with ammunition. These were not random encounters, family. These are intelligence-driven interceptions. Malian forces knew exactly where those vehicles would be and at what time they would be there. And the military intervention was precise. That is how intelligence can help bring about precision in military operation. Then there is a bigger picture. Since the African Corps replaced the Wagner, you know, as Moscow principal, military presence in Mali, we have seen a qualitative shift in the intelligence gathering capability of the Malian forces. Oh, Niam Dickerson, glad I can catch you live today. Thank you so much for the donation. I really appreciate it, man. The African Corps have now deployed a Sukhoi 24 fighter jet in Mali since at least April 2025. That is according to satellite images and media reports. They have also introduced a type of drone they call the Gapia A1 loitering munition. They have deployed the Zala drone. They have also deployed the Monia drone, apart from the FPV and the fiber optic that have been exclusively active in Mali. So when you look at all these capabilities that are being put in place, to be honest with you, Mali is really ready. All right. So now, the Russians are the ones responsible for the production of this Gapia A1 loitering munition. According to information, the Gapia A1 loitering munition is Russian-produced variant of Shahid type of drone, first documented near Sevare in May 2026. But more importantly, they have brought signal intelligence, the ability to intercept communication, compromise the communication security of insurgents, operatives, track their movements, and build a real-time operational picture of the terrorist position across the vast Sahelian terrain. The territory of Mali is enormous, it's a behemoth. But the fact that the Malian intelligence are doing enough to stop a major escalation of multiple armed groups that have links, I'm talking about logistic links, with Western intelligence agents and Western financial logistics, you definitely know that we have to say, thank you to these African brothers, because this is not something that is common in Africa. When they say your intelligence is working, the storyline you will see on Western media is that, oh, this was only successful because there was coordination with certain Western powers, right? But this is the Malian intelligence, they're doing a phenomenal job. The Burkinabe intelligence, they're doing a phenomenal job. You see, one of the most sophisticated intelligence that I've seen in the Sahel is the Nigerian intelligence, because how does President Abdurrahman Chiani have those type of information he comes out with? I'm talking about location of bases, the GPS coordinates, the time of meeting, who was there. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to even talk about President Chiani. Like, that man's intelligence, I don't know. The intelligence he drops is on a whole nother level. Now, the interception of the fuel and ammunition shipment coming from Libya tonight, that is not luck, ladies and gentlemen. This is the product of multiple intelligence stream coverage. Someone spoke, someone, the voice was tracked somehow. Maybe they made a phone call, something like that. Signals were intercepted, and human intelligence on the ground confirmed the coordinates of this particular FLA and JNI personnel. And the Air Force, they were ready. The Sukhoi fighter jet in the air, striking the precision at about 9:41 p.m. Now, let me make something very clear at this point. If the logistics that the JNIM and the FLA have just brought in, if it was not significant, the Malian Armed Forces will not bother carrying a Sukhoi fighter jet. Do you get what I'm saying? A Sukhoi Frogfoot 24 is a fighter jet that gives you an enormous level of firepower. You see, when it comes to some level of operation, you can't compare it to the modern series like the Lockheed Martin F-35 or the Sukhoi 35 or the Sukhoi 57. You can't compare it to those series of fighter jets. But if you want to really, really destroy, the Sukhoi 24 is something that can give you that. It can carry a lot of munition. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to believe that from intelligence gathering and surveillance, the Malian Armed Forces were able to discover that the number of JNIM personnel or the capabilities they were bringing in was enormous. Because if it wasn't enormous, they probably would have destroyed everything with a Bayraktar Kinchi drone or a Bayraktar TB2. But for Mali to have sent two Sukhoi fighter jet, not one, it means that something big was hit. And, we are going to get into what would have happened right there. Now, according to the information we received, that the striking took place at exactly 9:41 p.m. That tells you that they had the exact verified coordinates. All right. That's a level of intelligence sophistication that the Western media consistently fail to acknowledge when discussing the Sahel, security situation. Because acknowledging it will mean that you are admitting that African military partnered with Russia, who is a rival to the West now, is capable of conducting complex multi-source intelligence operations on the ground in Mali, thereby keeping the Malian territory safe. They don't want to say that. If it is not France, it cannot be anybody. But that is why we're standing up and we're saying kudos to these guys. They're doing a very, very fantastic job. Now, credit to the Malian intelligence service, right? They have clearly investigated and they've done their work. They've talked the talk and they've put in the work. All right. They have invested heavily in human intelligence network across Mali, according to the information we gave. Among communities that are tired of living under the terrorist intimidation, either to pay jizya or to pay all this type of, taxations that some Salafi Wahhabi take, for people's life, for innocent people's life, right? Some of these very, very dangerous environments, there are intelligence operatives there. They have been deployed, to boost the technical capacity, of the signal intelligence. And they have demonstrated operational tempo, right? They have been, once they send the information to the Malian Armed Forces, the timing of strike is very, very decisive. According to information, some of them is within hours, and some people are saying sometimes it's within minutes of collaborating the information with the Malian forces. So, after they have received actionable intelligence, So now this is not a profile of a military on the back foot, all right? This is the profile of a military that owns the information battlefield, because the information battlefield is a whole nother conversation entirely. Now, you see that certain people are coming out recently from France and they are saying that they've carried out some investigation and they know that there are now some group of Africans. They call them militia. I don't know who those people are. They said they are defending the interest of the Sahel on social media. Well, I don't know what that is all about. I don't know when it became a crime to defend the interest of an African state on social media. I am an African, you know, and why would I be defending any other state apart from an African state? You see, their country is not our business. We are talking about Africa here. So that investigation is you just being utterly jobless, in my opinion, right? Saying that Africans are defending you. Now they're calling them a militia. I don't understand what that means anyway. I must be honest with you at this hour, exactly, they have given some casualty figures, right? They are saying several. They are saying dozens, right? From tonight's strike in Kidal and Tinzawantin, all right? The information is still being assessed by the Malian Armed Forces. But let me give you an informed estimate based on the nature of the target, the weapon system deployed, and the operational pattern that we have observed in previous strikes. When you strike an ammunition storage with Sukhoi fighter jets, you are not looking at a single explosion and you're not looking at a small component of logistics. You are looking at a chain detonation here. Secondary, tertiary, that have ripple effect to the entire depot, all right? So every round of munition, every mortar shell, every rocket propelled grenade stored in that facility, ladies and gentlemen, it becomes part of the destruction. Now the blast radius expand exponentially because the first thing is from the TNT. then from multiple stored munitions. So the blast just continues. Now, anyone in that compound, and I mean anybody in that compound, even the flies, will not walk away from that compound alive. Even the mosquitoes will not, they won't come out of there alive because of what is there. So let's not even talk about the personnel now. Now, the fuel depot compounds, right? It's going to blow up too because fuel was among what they brought in. The Malians have been destroying their logistic capability when it comes to their fuel depot. So when aviation fuel or diesel engine ignites, it creates a fireball that engulfs everything, in its immediate environment. So combined with the ammunition detonation, we are looking at something that looks like a catastrophic kill box. So this is what I think. So based on the previous operation of this kill, and I want to reference July 18 ambush near Anefis that killed over 50 Malian soldiers. That is according to, the fake information that was, given on X by the FLA. They took the photos of, the Malian soldiers that they neutralized from different angles. So they called it 50. And in all honesty, what we counted was, I think, 12. I think we counted 12. Yeah, I think it counted 12. Overall, with the people that surrendered, I think they were about 21. So where they came out with 50, only God knows. So, and that was not even all the convoy because there were some people that fell back. So I don't know where they're coming out with this information from. So giving us a sense of concentration of fighters, right? This can be field commanders. I would estimate that tonight's strike from those two Sukhoi fighter jets have neutralized several dozens of fighters at minimum. So possibly significantly more when you account for the secondary explosion. And the fact that these were logistic ops, it means that they were manned by fighters responsible for receiving the equipment, for storing, and for redistributing the supplies to some of the FLA and JNIM terrorist sects. So you know that they have been able to pull their resources together now. So what we are looking at in that building could probably be over 100, JNIM and FLA casualty, or maybe less, or maybe even more. So, but according to information, they say it's multiple casualties. So these are not random foot soldiers. These are logistic officers, these are commanders, these are technical specialists. And how you can give the damage assessment in this type of situation, it takes real experts because when you have a situation where the primary strike is from a Sukhoi fighter jet, you are pumping in multiple munition, like you're pumping in multiple payload into that particular building. And from the videos we've seen, those buildings were flattened. So, and you have the primary detonation from the TNT from the Sukhoi, then you have the secondary detonation, then you from the diesel or something like that, or from the petrol, and then you have the tertiary detonation from the mortar shells, the rocket propel grenade, and all of these things. So, ladies and gentlemen, anybody caught within that, blast radius, I mean, even the 72 virgins are not going to get their prize. So, ladies and gentlemen, you see, I must tell you something. Some commanders would have been neutralized right there in the building because, these type of buildings are not just being manned by ordinary people. You need a major guy to be there that can control the environment, that when he speaks, the other terrorists they respect. So just imagine who it must have been, you know. Anyway, but I want to be very clear, family. You see, we'll update you as soon as the official figure verified by the Malian Armed Forces, as soon as it come out, we'll update you, all right? So, but right now, the estimate is unconfirmed, right? But ladies and gentlemen, it was a serious destruction. Now, we're now receiving information from an FLA political chieftain. That was what they called him on X. He is making threats that since the Malian Armed Forces are now carrying out multiple airstrike with the Geran drones, that now they are going to retaliate. That was what he said. He said now they have to retaliate. I don't know how they plan to retaliate, but ladies and gentlemen, with the level of air strikes they've been taking all week, I don't think the Malians are stopping anytime soon. I think the gloves are off. I think before, there is this program called Reconciliation and DDR in Mali going on. But right now, with what I am beginning to see, drone strike from the UAVs, from the TB2, from FPV drone, from fiber optic, from the Geran drones, and now in some, the southern to central part of Mali, you have the Russian African Corps and the Malian Armed Forces going to the trenches of the terrorists and just doing a complete, close combat cleanup job. Ladies and gentlemen, I think the gloves are off. You know, Before we have been saying that it makes no sense for anybody to be in the barracks right now. Go out there and get the job done, because if you are there, you are a life target, because the guys coming, they know where you are, they have enough time to plan, they have enough strategy, they have plan A, plan B, plan C. So just go out, let the hunters be the hunted. And it has been producing a very, very significant result, with a lot of intelligence capability being put in place to give them operational vision on the line of contact. Now, a lot of people are asking this question, and I want to address it directly because it reveals something very important about the psychological warfare of this conflict. Now, the short answer, ladies and gentlemen, is yes. I think the FLA politician that is beginning to talk, I think that language is not even correct. FLA politician, because what party does he represent? So maybe France have given them some political backup, we don't know. So when a political shifting from the FLA comes out making threat against Bamako, what he is really telling you, if you know how to read between the lines, is that the pressure they are taking has become unbearable. Let me walk you through the evidences. The FLA force reported seeing a Shahid type of unmanned aircraft over the northern Malian airspace on the night of July 5th to July 6th, 2026. Since then, there have been steady escalation in the drone operation. The Gapia A1, which is the Russian-produced variant of the Geran series, right, is self-derived from the Iranian Shahid 136 design, carries a payload of up to 150 kilogram. All right, it has a flight range that allows it to loiter over the northern Mali for extended period, and it operates at night. A lot of people don't understand that it is very, very bad for. It is going to be extremely bad for them. The latest Shahid that is being provided, that is being produced in Russia, when you shoot it, it has some minor chips. If you look at a picture of the Shahid, some of them you will see some little bug-like materials on it, not more than this size. You see, those things on it, it allows the Shahid drone to evade electronic signals. And the people in the control room, I'm talking about the command control center, they can see where the Shahid is going and they know what the Shahid is going to hit. So this is a very, very dangerous situation for the FLA right now as a terrorist group. Now, the last point, the night operation is critical for years. The Tuareg separatists, on the ground, they normally use the darkness as a shield. But now that in the darkness, we have been saying that they are shooting at the Shahid, but most of the time, none of the Shahid be blowing up. The only time the Shahid lands, what you start hearing from the FD is Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar. And when 150 kilogram of explosive land next to you, you definitely know what can happen. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we have been seeing on the ground, and the Malians are really, really doing a very, very fantastic job. So this is not just my analysis, okay? When you look at the pattern, the FLA statement over the past few months, the tone has shifted from defiance to desperation. There was a point they said that if they see any Malian soldier in the northern part of it, they would do this and they would do that. Now they are appealing for international attention. They are trying to frame the drone strike as indiscriminate. That was the language they used. They are attempting to rally diplomatic pressure against Bamako. You see, even France, helped them to get, an opportunity to speak at the UN. This is very, very diabolic. All of these are actions of a movement, that knows it is losing the military contest in Mali. And it is not just the FLA and JNIM that is losing. When you say that the FLA and JNIM is losing, it means you are saying that France have been defeated again. Yeah, that is the point that I want you to understand. Every time they lose, every time they cry, France cries. That is the fact. So this is not a gamble here. This is very, very decisive action. This is spurious work here. So anybody can, once you get caught lacking, the 72 virgins will celebrate and France will cry at the end of the day. So when you think about that family, all right, you can say maybe the threats are credible, all right, or maybe the terrorist sect of the FLA, maybe they are really, really ratted. Either way, the 72 virgins are going to be the one to jubilate, because at the end of the day, all we are seeing from Mali right now is continuous offensive. And that only means one thing, that the gloves are finally off. So, ladies and gentlemen, right? A lot of people are saying something, that why are the Western media quiet? And I said I'm going to address all of that now, all right? Let us talk about why they are quiet, about, this conflict, most especially what is going on this week. When the terrorists attack the Malian forces, the Western media celebrates. You can see it in their body language and everything, that they celebrate some of this attack. And you can see the level of publicity they give to terrorist attack. But from what we are seeing recently, they have been very, very quiet about Mali. All right. To me, what I think is the Russian African Corps airstrike, has been very, very devastating. The Malian Armed Forces airstrike have been very, very, very devastating. Now, the Human Rights Watch has been reporting, but ladies and gentlemen, that is currently falling on deaf ears. It's currently falling on deaf ears, because the Malian civilians, they want it back in blood. A lot of civilians have died. A lot of families have they have lost their loved ones. Human Rights Watch don't talk about those people. They only celebrate the victories of the terrorists. So there are different layers of this, media network. So, and in a situation where you need the political support of the people, now that people are saying, man, you need to go all out and get the job done. Now that you're saying, Malian Armed Forces going out with multiple Sukhoi fighter jets, it only shows you that the line has been drawn. So right now, it's either I crush you or you do something. So there's no negotiation anymore. So ladies and gentlemen, how many civilians did the JNIM kill in April coordinated attack across Mali? You should understand that the JNIM shot at civilians. So how many civilians have been displaced by the FLA operation in northern Mali? How many Malian soldiers, fathers, husbands, and sons have been killed in ambushes like the one that we saw in Intensifies in July? S production. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for the donation. I really appreciate it. All right. I really appreciate it. They claim that it claimed 50 lives. I really, really appreciate them for making that statement, right? So where is the human rights report on that? Where is Al Jazeera headline on that? Where is BBC English report on that? So the silence is the message, family. Yeah, they keep quiet. The silence tell you that the international human rights apparatus does not equally, call out all situation. All right. It calibrates, it consciously read what to say and what not to say. Everything they do is to put pressure on governments that have rejected Western security partnership and by extension, Western influence, while minimizing the scrutiny of the armed groups those governments are fighting, like the Al-Shabaab in Somalia. People nearly don't hear anything about what is going on in Somalia. But well, we'll see with time. Now, the bigger question, ladies and gentlemen, are the Malian authorities done showing mercy? That is the biggest question. Is Bamako about to go blow for blow with the terrorist coalition? Based on what we are seeing tonight, ladies and gentlemen, from the airstrike, from the cry from the FLA? The answer is yes. When you look at the number of migrants that is running away from their mining sites in Tinzawantin, then you know that the gloves are off. Mali is no longer joking. Whatever makes you sleep on your bed and wake up in Tinzawantin mining site right now, man, means you are calling for some 72 Virgin and it will be deployed very, very quickly. Now, you see, when you strike a fuel depot and an ammunition supply line coming from Libya, you are not playing defense, all right? You are not responding to ambush. You are conducting offensive, preemptive operation designed to destroy the enemy's ability to fight. So you are not just responding to attacks. This is a doctrinal shift. The Malian Armed Forces, in coordination with the African Corps, they have clearly adopted a posture of total degradation, preemption. They are not waiting for the next deadly ambush that will be reported on Al Jazeera, that a military convoy was ambushed. No, they're taking the war to the terrorist gate. They're taking it to their doorstep directly. The FLA are showing us pictures of people that are bloodied as if they just entered one very bad sparring match. We don't want to see that. All right? Their politicians are shouting. I have never heard the FLA cry like this before. Because they're saying things that they can't just find a counter capability to. Now, you see, to their next supply line, their fuel reserve, their munition stockpile, their safe houses. You see that language, safe houses, is no longer safe. Everything now is a legitimate target. So when you look at what has happened since April, the FLA and JNI coalition launching a coordinated attack across multiple fronts in Mali, including strikes on Bamako airport and the military installation, including the operation on Kidal with the help of Ukrainian foreign legionnaires. So, to be honest with you, in their own assessment, they are gaining momentum, right? And when Mali responded, okay, they did not retreat. Mali did not negotiate because at some point people were saying Mali should negotiate. Some individuals from Algeria, they were saying on X that Mali should negotiate. But Mali chose the way of escalation. Mali brought in the Geran drones. They had it before, but it wasn't so operational. But what we are seeing right now is Mali is ready to put in every necessary capability to end this war on their terms. A lot of people are now seeing the new Baraktar Akinci drone. According to one of the information I just heard today from Abdulaziz Asumi, one of the very good brothers from Niamey, I don't know, I can't verify independently right now. They said Algeria is ready to make amendments for the Malian drone that they destroyed. In fact, I have the screenshot of this report. They said Algeria is ready to make amends. In what form, I can't tell. For the drones that they destroyed. Are they going to buy a new drone? But you definitely know that Mali and Algeria is back on good terms. So there's a lot to talk about. All right. So the operations for the JNIM is no longer the way it used to be. So Mali is not playing catch and shoot. They are not doing shoot and scoot. Mali is going all out. So everything the JNIM always had, their weapon stockpile, their support, Mali is not ready to play ceasefire, ladies and gentlemen. This is a military that is playing for total domination in their territory. Everybody used to say that Malian military is strong. Mali is not trying to get some, props from anybody again. They want to put in the work to let you know, right? That's why I say whatever any Western media or Human Rights Watch is going to say right now is going to fall on deaf ears because Mali wants to enforce that peace through strength, not through negotiation with some Europeans that want to come back to the Malian territory to come and steal gold, like they've always done for a long time. So Mali is done showing mercy. I think the answer is written in the flames over Kidal, over Tinzawantin, over Thessaly tonight. The Malian state have decided you cannot negotiate with those who seek your destruction, all right? You can only defeat them. And I know some of the FLA and JNIM personnel, they are watching me right now. Yeah, because I see your message on the chat sometimes where you say Mali will fall, it will become a caliphate, inshallah. I don't even believe in all those things that you are saying, first of all. So you're talking to the wrong person. I know you are listening. I definitely know you are listening. But you choose to type sometimes when you are confident enough. All right. But I know you all listen. I know I've seen your message multiple times. Your name is written in Arabic. Most of you, your name is written in Arabic. And it says everything about Arabs, all right? It's never going, there is nothing. Look at you all swimming your way to Spain. All right. I'm not even going to condemn, I'm not going to condemn, I'm not going to condemn everything you are doing, right? I'm not going to condemn you all swimming your way. You can see the number of people that died, right? You went to another. Look, everything terrible that we can see from evidences is related to Arab people. Even though France have used Syrian mercenaries to carry out their dirty job for a long time, they are using it because this is the only thing you know how to do, to destroy lives and properties. That is it. Because how will any sensible person come out and be like, Mali will become a caliphate? What does that sound like to you? None of your caliphates have been able to produce any game-changing, life-changing capability. Not health, nor medical, nor like nuclear medicine. You are nowhere to be found. The only thing you all know is how to say somewhere is going to build Sharia, cut the hand, cut the head. If he does this, cut him here. What type of humans are those type of people, man? When I saw you all jump into the river and try to swim your way to Kilta, I just knew it had to be you, man. It can never, ever be anyone else. It has to be, man. So, a lot of them drowned inside the water. It was a funny scenario. Like, I didn't break a sweat. Now, first on the drone now, let me be very clear because the evidence is now well documented. The Gapia A1 has been operating in Mali since May 2026 and is a Russian variant manufactured by EMZ Kupol in Izevsk, Russia. It's a derivative of the Geran series, which in itself is a Russian copy of the Shahid 136 design, where Russia procured a license to produce it from Iran, right? Iran gave the technology. It's not Arab. The Iranians are the Persians, so don't think it has anything to do with Arab. You guys don't produce anything. The only thing you produce is to manufacture, some written books and deceive people back and forth all over the whole place. You guys don't produce. Tell me one thing you all have produced by yourself. Nothing. 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 So I want you to prove me wrong and tell me that in the name of whatever you call yourself, that you've been able to manufacture. Tell me something you've manufactured that have made people's life easier on the planet today. Not no satellite. I don't know why some people just go about giving you all some unnecessary props. You guys don't produce anything. Only death and destruction. That's the only thing you shout. How in hell will thousands of people just jump into the water, knowing that some of them cannot swim their way across that water, and a lot of them died inside that water? I mean, I'm still trying to know from what world you all come from. You cannot swim your way, and more than 90 people are reportedly gone as we speak. It shows you that, look, I used to say something here that you cannot underestimate the power of a foolish person. You can never ever underestimate the disadvantage of a foolish person, because you know that you cannot cross 300 meter to 500 meter. You jumped into the water. No 72 virgin for you anyway. No 72 virgin for you, because that is not what your Quran told you. Is that it? But I only blame the Spanish border guard. Imagine I was the border guard in that situation. man, I'm counting 1,000 body minimum. So Iran is not directly harming Mali, because a lot of people are saying that, you know, maybe Iran has already started their intelligence and, you know, military technology sharing with Mali. You know, no, it's not Iran. This particular drone does not belong to Iran. Russia is using this technology, and, you know, these technologies are tested and trusted. You know, they are tested from the Ukrainian front line, and, you know, they are brought into Mali. The intelligence sharing goes after. The Malian forces are specially trained to also operate this military capability. You know that you know, the collaboration between the Malians and, you know, the Russians is, I don't know how long it will be, but the Russians are really transferring everything they can give to the Malian forces to make them better. But you cannot say that as far as Operation Serval is concerned. Operation Serval was the first operation that France launched together with the other Western partners in Africa. All right. You can't say that of Operation Barkhane. That was the second operation they launched in Africa, which was about stealing gold. You can't say that of Operation Takuba Tax Force. All right? You can't say that. I've mentioned 3 operations: Serval, Barkhane, Takuba Task Force. The 3 were complete failures. And ladies and gentlemen, Operation Dugo Koloko, just one operation. Mali with Russia, they have liberated a lot of territories. So this is what we're talking about. Now, some of these territories that they are liberating right now were given to the terrorists when France was there in Mali. So France came out recently. They came out with some videos. They said they now have to speak up. Yeah, that was what they said. They said they now have to speak up for themselves. They said because the Malian government is making it look like they did not do anything in Mali. So I was carefully watching the videos. I wanted to see, you know, I mean, we are seeing what the Russians are doing. We are seeing we are seeing the whole, you know, devastation, right? And I sat down, and because when I'm curious, I am curious. So I watched this video for more than 1 hour, right? Thank you so much, family. And do you know that these people wasted my precious time for 1 hour? There was no, these guys did not kill a mosquito. Like, they will just pick some phone calls under some rock. Like, yeah, like they will talk. So you hear things like boom. So they'll be like, okay, enemy down, enemy down. Like, they won't even go there to confirm the kill. Now, the funny aspect is when they pass some of this environment, you don't even see no blood stain on the ground. Like, what type of people do you guys think you are messing with? You guys came to Africa to steal gold, steal uranium. If anybody that listened to my video, my last video, their operation in Central African Republic was to go and steal diamond and steal uranium. Everywhere you go, if this is not what you do, why did the Madagascan leader, why did they kick you all out? Why did they kick you out from Angola? Why did they kick you out from Central African Republic? Everywhere you go, you don't send military personnel, you send geologists. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is just the fact. This is the pure fact, and we cannot continue to hide it. And this is the factual assessment of what is happening on the ground. It's robbery operation. Don't call it Operation Barkhane. I don't even know what that name means, right? Niger chased you out, Mali chased you out, Burkina Faso chased you out, right? Togo is beginning to do the Gangnam dance. So, what is going on? Togo is beginning to wobble and do the Gangnam dance. We don't know if Togo is going to recover, you know, because the equilibrium is gone right now. I know a lot of French proxy inside Togo, they are beginning to ask questions that why are Russian personnel inside Togo? You go and ask that question from the leader. Don't ask us, right? But French forces are in the country, you're not asking questions. You see, what is coming will come. And it will start with the devastating defeat of the West in Ukraine. The West is equally taking several body shots, head shot, shin shot, back shot from Iran. So it's defeat everywhere. And whenever these people get defeated and embarrassed somewhere, they want to turn to Africa to give themselves some sort of PR stunts. It ain't working. I want a lot of people to go and look at those French videos. You would not see a single blood stain. They will just make call. They'll be like, so personnel is gone. Like, I'll be like, do you think we're in 1920? Are you whining us? No, don't try it again. Don't even make, those videos are embarrassing for the reputation of France. Now you are losing control at a geometric speed that even the force of gravity is learning. Now you want Africa to adopt ECHO. Because you'll be putting sanctions on China, putting sanctions on Russia. They'll be bypassing the sanction as if the sanction is nothing. Now you want us to adopt ECHO. So the reason why those people want you to adopt ECHO is that they want to peg it to euro because they want you to be under. So when they say the world is against you, they are saying that we are the world, because every other person you want to think about, they're not even a part of the world. They are underneath us. So Africa needs to get out of that mess. So now, let me give you 3 historical events, because the historical facts is the money, right? Where Russia supported African countries against Western oppression. Man, I love what I'm doing right now. Honestly, I can do this all day, right? So now, first of all, you know what happened in Mali. And you know who the West was standing with. They were standing with JNIM, they were standing with FLA, but the Russians stood with the Malian Armed Forces, and with the help of the Russian, they were able to push the terrorists back from central Mali to the northern part of Mali. Now, when we are talking about pushing them back, ladies and gentlemen, let me be very, very clear. When I say that they were able to push them back to northern Mali, what I'm saying is that even central Mali, when France was there, some part of central Mali was being governed by Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda sets the rule. They were being governed under Sharia. That is why this fight is so toxic right now. Your eyes, only the black of your eyes can show up if you're a woman at the time. The laws they were trying to make was that nobody should go to school. Like, who are these people? But when the Russians came and partnered with the Malian forces, they were able to push these elements far away. So when you hear that they were being pushed, what they are saying is it used to be under the preeminent control of this terrorist group. That was why when the Western journalist was speaking with the former president of Mali before Assimi Goïta came, the guy that Assimi Goïta knocked out, not even kicked, very unpopular president. The Western journalist was asking, have you dialogued with the MNLA? It was like, we are working on it. Have you dialogued with the Ansaru? We are working on it. Have you dialogue with the MPLJ? We are working. I'd be like, it came to a point I was confused. Like, is this a caliphate already or something? Right? This is what the West wants Africa to look like. So they tell you about heaven. And they want to make your country a hellhole, where your country should be the real heaven. So when you travel to their country and you see those lights, you'll be like, oh man, this is... Man, don't let anybody deceive you. Africa would have been the best. Have you checked? We don't have hurricane in Africa. When you look at some of these notorious, natural disasters, we don't have it over here. I was really, really checking. At a point, I was looking for somewhere to go to. And it came to a point, I looked to a certain level. I was like, man, I'm not better anywhere from where I am right now. I'm not going to be better ever. I was seeing earthquake, I was seeing landslide, I was seeing tremor, I was seeing a lot of things for different countries. And I looked at Africa. You don't really have some of this natural disaster. No hurricane, nothing. And I was asking myself, and let me tell you something, the erosion in Africa, it is because of the bad education on the environmental maintenance by some of the Africans. They'll be throwing different type of things in the drainage. If you maintain the drainage properly, Africa don't have no problem. So when I looked at all these things, so they want to make you feel like your life in Africa is hell. So it's so bad, and they know how to work with the neo-colonialists, such that the neo-colonialists make you feel like you cannot be anything in Africa. They steal money and they let you know they are stealing money. It is part of the program. You cannot compare Captain Ibrahim Traore, by design, thank you so much. You cannot compare Captain Ibrahim Traore to President Paul Biya, the oldest man on the planet. Like, I heard from a brother yesterday that this man probably died more than 60 times before. I don't know, they are saying he has finally died or something, we don't know. Somebody was saying from Cameroon, he said Paul Biya has probably died more than 60 times. I don't know what that means, right? They said he has died more than 60 times. The oldest president on the planet. Nobody is coming close. So, that is what, can you compare that to Captain Ibrahim Traore? Let's take it from when he was young. Can you compare Alassane Ouattara to Captain Ibrahim Traore? I respect Ouattara as a man, right? But let's put them together. What is the record? Let's go to the statistics. Let's put them next to each other. I love my president to death, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, but put them together. This is oh, look, I love President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I'll go to war for him. Love him like a play cause. But I'm being honest with you, right? If you put them next to each other, right, you know that there is a gulf between them. And this is the truth. So, I mean, you hardly have African leaders that are that intelligent. You hardly can get them. So, all this old kabuki theater and all of that, I saw the president of a certain country making certain move recently. Like, just pick Captain. Look, you can talk about President Xi, you can talk about President Vladimir Putin. There are some very, very good, intelligent presidents, but you can't count 10 among all the countries on this planet, and you won't put Captain Ibrahim Traore in the list. I dare anyone to come out with that list. 10. You will have this Sahelian president. Captain Ibrahim Traore is top 10 greatest president in the world as we are speaking. And they want to tell you that Africa is bad. Now, somebody asked me a question before I finish this video. The person said that why is Africa not producing? Are you aware? I want the Nigerians here to listen to me. In 1980, yeah, I think I'm getting the year correctly. In 1980, there was a Nigerian man that manufactured a robot. Yeah, he manufactured a robot. What happened to him? According to information, he was arrested. They said he had mental problem. And we did not see the man again. Can you manufacture in Burkina Faso? Is Burkina Faso a healthy environment for manufacturing right now? Absolutely yes. Captain Ibrahim Traore is very positive for people that have manufacturing capability. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a story for another day. Africans are not limited. The fastest computer on the planet was being created by a Nigerian man called Philip Emeagwari. I don't want to talk about other, these are the few. There are still several other inventions that have been done by African people. No, not for today. Let's just calm it down, right? Not here, not on YouTube, but there are too many evidences. Medicine, arts. Why did they come and steal the African Benin bronze? Why did they come and steal all those African, from deities to artifacts. Why did they steal it? Africans cannot create anything. Who is lying to who? There are so many things that our people have manufactured, but they are trying to demonize everything you are doing so that you believe that you are hopeless without them. I can't believe that a white South African farmer was saying that black South Africans will probably, they will be extinguished without the white South African farmer. Are you playing agriculture, black people? So, families, let's get into it. 3 historical events where Russia supported Africa against Western oppression. This is not the first time Russia has been doing it. All right. Angola, MPLA, and the Battle of Quito Carnavale in 1975 to 1988. When Portugal withdrew from Angola in 1975, the Soviet Union threw in full military weight, strategic weight, behind the popular movement for the liberation of Angola. The MPLA, at the time, the MPLA was fighting not just internal rivals, the UNITA that was backed by Western intelligence and Western funding, but a direct military invasion by the apartheid South African. These are multi-fronts. This is what the West know how to do. Which was backed, let us be absolutely clear, by the United States. The Reagan administration provided UNITA with hundreds of millions of dollars in covert military aid through the CIA. Now, the apartheid South African Defense Force crossed into Angolan territory with American-supplied equipment and American political cover. The Soviets provided the MPLA with the T-55 and the T-62 tanks, MiG-21 and MiG-23 fighter jets at the time, military advisors, and billions of dollars in military assistance over more than a decade. The decisive movement, ladies and gentlemen, pay attention, came at the Battle of Quito Carnavale in 1987 to 1988, the largest land battle in African history since World War II. The Soviets supplied air power combined with Cuban ground forces. Cuba has equally helped Africa, and they are helping Africa to this day. Are you aware that there are Cuban doctors in Burkina Faso? There are some people you will find them with liberation, some people you will find them with oppression. So now, under the Soviet strategic coordination, the South African apartheid regime was repelled. The Angolans were able to repel the South African Defense Forces advance, and they inflicted so much disaster and loss that Pretoria could not sustain it. The battle broke the myth of the apartheid military invincibility. It directly led to negotiation that ended the South Africa illegal occupation of Namibia. South Africa apartheid regime were occupying Namibia at the time, and it accelerated the internal collapse of the apartheid regime itself. Nelson Mandela, and I want you to hear this clearly, Nelson Mandela himself acknowledged that Quito Carnavale was a turning point in the liberation of Southern Africa. Without Soviet support to the MPLA, that would never have come. So this is what the Soviets have done for Africa. Because when you hear the Soviet, people want to tell you as if it was a dark union. Now, the Soviet Union harmed and sustained the African liberation movement against the apartheid coalition of South Africa and the United States for over a decade. And that movement won the war. Not just the different skirmishes and battles, they won the war decisively. Because the war, the defeat of the apartheid regime had primary, secondary, and multiple ripple effects that collapsed the entire apartheid regime and their military machine at the time. Now let's go to Frelimo, the Frelimo War of Independence in Mozambique between 1964 to 1974. The Mozambican Liberation Front, Frelimo, fought a decade-long guerrilla war against Portuguese colonial rule. Who harmed them? The Soviet Union. From 1964 onward, The Soviet Union provided FAMa with weapon training, diplomatic backing at the United Nations at a time when Portugal was the founding member of NATO. Portugal was the founding member of NATO, and Western powers were largely silent or actively complicit in the atrocities being committed in the Portuguese colonies with the direct support of Portugal. The Soviets made AK-47, RPG-7S, mortars, and surface-to-air missiles were funneled through Tanzania and later through liberated zone in Mozambique itself, giving FRELIMO the offensive capability to challenge a NATO-armed colonial military that had air superiority and armed vehicles. The Soviets also trained FRELIMO cadres in military academies in the Soviet Union, building the command structure that will eventually lead to an independent Mozambique. So when you see a meeting between Vladimir Putin, President Mugabe, from Mugabe to Mnangagwa, you definitely know that that relationship has been for a very long time. Russia's name was written on the good sound of time as far as Mozambique is concerned. When Mozambique achieved independence in 1975, FRELIMO leader Samora Machel publicly credited Soviet Union's assistance as essential to the liberation, and then critically when apartheid South Africa and Rhodesia immediately began destabilizing the new Mozambican state through Renamo proxy force, the Soviet Union continued its support, helping Maputo defend its sovereignty against Western-backed destabilization. This was not a minor contribution, ladies and gentlemen. This was the backbone of National Liberation War that succeeded against NATO-armed European colonial powers. South Africa. The Soviet Union's support for the ANC, an armed struggle against apartheid. This is one of the Western narrative. This is the one that Western narrative try others to erase. While the United States government was designating Nelson Mandela African National Congress as a terrorist organization, and let us sink in, the United States kept Mandela on its terror watch list until 2008. The Soviet Union was providing the ANC with military training, funding, diplomatic cover, and weapons for armed struggles against apartheid. The ANC military wing, Umkhonto, was Sizwe, that's what they call it, the spear of the nation, received nearly all its military equipment from the Soviet Union. We are talking about thousands of AK-47, limpet mines, RPGs, and later surface-to-air missiles. Soviet instructors trained MK cadres in Angola, in the Soviet Union itself, and in allied training states across Eastern Bloc. Upward to 3,000 ANC activists and fighters came to the Soviet Union for extended period of training, education, medical treatment, producing engineers, doctors, military commanders, and future leaders of post-apartheid South Africa. When Western cooperation were still doing business with apartheid regime, when Mahatma Bank was extending loans to Pretoria, when IBM was supplying computers to apartheid security apparatus, the Soviet Union was mostly consistent in diplomatic support for the South African movement. This contrast is stark and documented. The West called Mandela a terrorist and did business with his oppressors and the oppressors of the black South Africans. Now, the Soviet Union called him a freedom fighter and armed his movement. This is not opinion. This is history documented. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a show of the difference between the Russians and the West. So, the question is, pick a side. What side would you be proud to be on? In Mali, during the early 1960s, under President Modibo Keïta, the Soviet Union provided Mali its first modern military aircraft. So this relationship of Assimi Goïta with the Soviet Union did not start now. It's been there for a long time. They trained the first generation of Malian pilots, and they supported the infrastructural development in Mali. All at a time when France was still attempting to maintain neo-colonial control, economic control through the CFA franc system, and defense agreement that kept French troops permanently stationed on Malian soil. The Russians are not newcomers to Mali family. They are returning to their strategic partners with a historical relationship that predates most of our lifetimes. And most of the countries currently lecturing Bamako about its choice of allies, they are not aware of this history. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's down to one question again. The Malians are pulling the gloves. It's now bare knuckle. Bones are going to be broken. FLA is going to be on the run. A lot of illegal miners are currently leaving Mali. The Malians are not done. Most especially when they are now in coalition with an historical ally that has the reputation to support Africa development and growth. So tell me, once again, what side would you rather be on? So, ladies and gentlemen, it's at this point that even me, myself, I'm pulling my gloves and I'm saying thank you for coming to this live stream and supporting. We really appreciate. We really, really want to say thank you to everyone that donated and much more love and respect. By design, thank you for joining the live stream. Cabo Short, thank you for joining the live stream. Brother Omar, wherever you see the video, thank you for every bit of support you've given to the Android community. Khadija, everybody, Ashisha Beda, Biamaka, yeah, I see the name. Everybody, I really appreciate you, man. It's another moment to show you why Africa needs to unite, because the solution to Africa liberation is just within Africans, and the ability for Africans to, hold everything to honor. When you have honor, the rest is simple, because honor is what gives you the cojones to distinguish between the Russians and the West. Which partner would you go with? If you have an option of the West and Russia right now, and you have to pick a side, if you pick the West, I know you have the tendency of being a thief. Look at President Zelensky, that is being supported by the West. What is he known for right now, apart from terrorism? He's known for stealing. His entire cabinet is known for stealing. Well, look at Russia. Look at Ibrahim Traore. Look at Abdurrahman Chiani. Look at Assimi Goita. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not speaking from emotion. I'm talking about statistics. The guys that stole money in Mali, Assimi Goita sent them to prison and said until they cough out that money. So whatever side you are on really, really shows the type of individual you are. So family, I want to say thank you. We are not stopping anytime soon. And we did not ask for this trouble. I'm just a simple Nigerian extending the Nigerian support to my brothers in diaspora, to my brothers in Mali, in Burkina Faso, in Niger, in Ghana, all over Africa. And we'll be watching one of the threats that is coming lately. We saw a brother saying that jihad must happen in Ghana. We are watching. We'll come for that too. I hope Frontline Africa and I hope Official Survivor Media have seen the video. But ladies and gentlemen, we'll gather our information and we'll come back with the update for you tomorrow. Thank you and God bless you. Homeland or dead, we are not playing. We are not playing over here. So when you see me, when you see Android, I want you to believe that everybody in Nigeria is not bad, regardless of the reputation you see out there. I'm a Nigerian. I'm proudly one. So when you see me, at least have the belief that everything they tell you about Africa is not what it is. Everything they tell you about Nigeria, they are good Nigerians. There are Nigerians on this live stream that are watching me. The fact that they can even sit down and watch me, it tells everything about them. So not every Nigerian is bad. Not every Malian is bad. Not every Ivorian is bad. So please, ladies and gentlemen, there are diamonds in the rough. You just need to pay critical attention so that you can actually see the good in people. So thank you and God bless you.